Welcome to Resolving the Chain, episode 4. This is John. Today, joining me is Alex, who does some YouTube Yu-Gi-Oh content himself under TheWorstDuelist is that name. Alex, where'd you get that name?
Actually, it's actually a very simple story. So whenever I originally got my Kasi ID years and years ago, probably like 7 or 8 years ago now, I filled out the forms or whatever, and when I got the actual card, I wrote on the back the worst duelist, and it was actually in reference to another player from St. Petersburg. His name is Austin Heidelbaugh. He was registered as the greatest duelist, so I thought it would be like a funny, like a gag almost, to be the worst duelist. And it worked out really well because at locals and pairing, everyone would be wondering who the worst duelist was, and then whenever I 2-0 scraped them, they lost the worst duelist.
How often did that happen?
Bro, we were playing Teller Knights, bro. Are you kidding me? Best deck at fucking every round. Are you kidding me?
Well, how far are you fallen with your Dark Magician stuff?
Listen, bro, we don't talk about that. That was the casual Thursdays, man. We're not tryharding at Oblivion games. Dark Magician is definitely back in the book right now. We're not playing Dark Magicians.
Fair enough. Not a great meta call right now.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
All right, so anyway, you've seen the show. You know how this works. We take 5 Yu-Gi-Oh topics, and we take 3 minutes each to break them down. So you ready to get started?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
All right, let's move on to Chainlink 5. All right, Ghost from the Past is right around the corner. It's another big reprint set. Konami's been killing it with the reprint sets lately. Alex, what do you want to see in Ghost from the Past?
So actually, I have a couple things to say about the set really as a whole. So I'm just going to start off with the notion of people saying that legendary duelist cards are going to be in this is just absolutely abysmal in my opinion, seeing as how they're doing the legendary duelist collection boxes. So I just all the leaks you see with Magician Souls, throw them away. What I'd like to see is pretty much like standard stuff across the board for most players. BLS Link, I mean, I have one, but like people need that card. Crossout Designator is really needed. I would love Evenly Matched because we've just been dodging that structure reprint for so long. Needle Fiber, possibly. I mean, it's been out for almost a year and a half now, I think. So that's something that I think could definitely happen. And a couple things that are like more on the maybe side for me. Maybe Maxi. I know it's banned, but like it hasn't had a reprint in God knows how common. I think Mocking the Structure deck. I think that IP alt art's supposed to be in there, and then maybe Access Code too, because that's also creeping around like the year and a half, kind of getting older now. So I think that could happen.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is, like with Eldritch the Golden Lord, that kind of screwed up any precedent for what reprints we get and how quickly we get them.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that almost anything's fair game. I think you're right. Any older, kind of side deck staple cards that haven't seen a reprint in a while, like Evenly Matched or I think Maxi's a good candidate too, because every printing of that card is outrageous. Even the super rare is like $20. I hope that in addition to doing the Ghost Rare BLS Link, they do an ultra rare version as well, just to make it more accessible.
Yeah, that would look sick too.
Yeah, and I know we're supposed to get the new Dragoonity cards in there. Maybe some stuff that goes well with that. Like,
ooh, baby, I'm hyped for that. That'd be sick, dude. I love Dragoonity. Sucks the first thing I ever played.
Oh, really? So
yeah, for sure.
What are there any Dragoonity cards that are high that you think should be included?
Maybe Barca. It's like the only thing that I could think of. That card was almost like upwards of 45s whenever the initial, like when Romulus came out. So that's something that could definitely see a reprint and people would not mind at all.
Yeah, what do you think about like an ultra rare Dragon's Ring?
Oh, please. I mean, like Secret, sure, but the Secret almost feels like a 10 Secret, and the supers are very clean. But yeah, Ultra would be nice, or even Ghost. Ooh, boy.
Yeah. I mean, a Ghost Field Spell would be really interesting.
Romulus could be a good Ghost too, but it got the Prismatic. But
true. I think IP is another good candidate. Like even with the reprint, that card is still like $20. And there's that alternate art that just came out that needs to be imported. I think Boral Sword is always a good one.
Yeah, for sure. I think Access really does need that though, because that guy's still like $80 almost. So
yeah, and he's a meta staple that needs to be in
yeah.
like every deck.
Absolutely.
Lightning Storm.
Yeah, no, that's a big one. I can't believe I forgot that. Lightning Storm indefinitely should be in this because that's Ignition Assault. Most of that stuff from that whole era, probably.
Yeah, well, I'll believe it when I see it. Let's move on to Chainlink 4 now. Vintage values are a really big thing right now. We see like Pokemon values just being absolutely ridiculous. And even Yu-Gi-Oh! I appraised my collection recently and it was just like insane stuff. Like ultis that were 25 cents are now like $40. Like it's actually crazy. Are there any cards that you can think of that you just think are like way overpriced as far as a collector's market?
Well, I mean, there's nothing I could probably really think of off the top of my head, but going on the notion that you said of like the 25-cent ultis and stuff, like let's be honest, like a lot of people opened a lot of products back in the day, and getting that fucking shitty like majestic mech ulti just felt so bad. And it's like it's something that just sits in bulk for years and years and years. And I think now that those cards are even gaining just a glimmer of value is good, because like eventually it shows that like those kinds of cards will have some sort of return one day. So I think that's great. But like as far as like champion pack, turbo pack stuff, I mean, that stuff's always been high. But like Mike Petrolia, actually, he has Super Metamorphosis. He got it for like 500. It's like $1,200 now for the condition that his is in. Like great condition. But it's almost, now we're getting to the point with Yugioh where it's kind of turning into almost like Magic's market, where things are just expensive because they're old, and like literally like just no other reason, just because it's old. Like unlimited or first, like it's just kind of like you can't really get it anymore. So
yeah, like one that really stands out to me was just first edition super rare Cyber Dragon was like $80. And that's a perfect example of a card. I mean, it's iconic, but it's really just old because there's that ultimate rare printing that just outright beats the super rare. And it's one of those things that I bought for like $1 from Game Academy like 4 years ago. And now the value's just exploded. Same thing with like
insane.
Yeah, same thing with like the Storms of Ragnarok. The like Ghost Rare Odin is like $90, which is just
the
insane.
Ghost Rare market is just fucking ridiculous, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, and I think conspiracy theory time. I think it's one of those things where it was really that first COVID stimulus that we got that just destroyed all collectors markets everywhere. Because there's always going to be people who don't really need the money. Maybe they work from home, maybe they are in kind of a line of work like me, like social media, and they've done pretty well over the past year and didn't really need the money. And so they spent it on like just shiny cardboard. And I don't think these prices are ever going to go down.
Oh, never, absolutely not. Champion pack, turbo pack, Ghost Rare only will ever increase. And that's kind of like what I was telling Mike about the meta. I'm like, I mean, you're stressing about maybe getting rid of it, but one day, whenever you do cash out on that, it's going to be just insane. And I 100% agree with you on the whole, the conspiracy theory there, because someone somewhere bought a Ghost of First Stardust and put it in a plastic case and sits it on their fucking nightstand. So yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree.
Yeah. And I think too, like, people looked at Pokemon. Like I looked up some of my Pokemon cards. Damaged Dark for Alligator was like $50 for a damaged card. Yeah. Insane. Anyway, that's the timer. Let's move on to Chain Link 3. So we saw a whole slew of Remote Duel extravaganzas take place over the weekend, in Europe, a couple of different ones in Europe, and another one right here in North America. Did you get a chance to look at any of the deck lists from those?
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%.
So what'd you think? I saw a lot of VW.
Yeah, I'm tired of that deck. I'm just gonna not really touch on that too much. I'm just over it. Just play 3 of everything, put 3 desires in it, summon VFD, go burr. Yeah, so I'm definitely
It's a real
tired.
hot
take. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely tired of seeing it. Now some more interesting stuff. Buster Blader, best deck, yes sir. I've actually been a really big fan of that deck for a long time, like since Bosch, like when it was terrible. They're trying to play like a Go second build with Kaijus, but we're not going to talk about that. But the new build, sick, dude. Just sit there, summon your fucking level 1 guy, go into Karibo, go into Ecclesia, set all the back row, win the duel. But Buster Blader is also one of those things that I feel like has fallen off kind of recently, because the meta's just been changing every fucking 2 weeks anyway. But when more traps come in, that deck gets worse. Whenever more Drytron VW comes in, that deck gets kind of better. It's more die roll dependent. But yeah, Guru, another cool list that I saw had one spot. I think it was the most recent results that I saw online. There was one Guru list, which is cool. Cesar Gonzalez got there with Guru. It's pretty good. And a friend of mine, actually, a Dutch guy, Tatsim. Shout out to his channel. He's actually the man. You should check him out. Dutch community is really cool. He got second place with Zueldlik. And that's another one of those like more standard lists, but it's good to see that Zoo is still there. Like maybe not pure Zoo, but like Zoo as an engine is still like competing with the likes of Vanity's Ruler, Ultimate Miss, VFD, etc.
Yeah, Zeus is one heck of a card.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That really carries that deck. I think one of the interesting things that I saw was like virtually no Drytron in any of the tops.
Yeah, I noticed that. It was strange.
I think people are just prepared for it. Like there's just too many good side deck cards, and just people know where the weak points are. It's much harder to find. I just think that decks like VW or Zodiac, well, VW has a lot more gas, and then Zodiac just has all of the trap cards.
Yeah, and the one card engine's nice.
Yeah, they just go plus off all the trap cards, and then their engine continues to go plus. So like,
I think people are less worried about VW also because even without calamities, you can hand loop, you can set up Shenshin board, and so on.
Yeah, and I think the lack of Drytron was really interesting, and then the prominence of Dragon Link as well was really interesting.
Yeah, like what is up with that? It's out of left field, but sure, Dragon Link's cool. Why not?
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things where the decks that have the most gas are just in a really good position right now because there's so many trap decks, so many control decks that aren't really playing unfair floodgates. They're playing traditional traps like
reactive cards, Ice
Dynamiscus.
Dragons, so on.
Yeah, Ice Dragons, Dynamiscus, Torrential, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Those lend themselves better to a deck that has a lot of gas. You can beat them a lot easier.
Indeed, absolutely. Bring combo back.
So let's move on to Chain Link 2. Sleeper strategies. We saw the Lyralust Tri-Brigade deck take first place at the North American extravaganza. They just went straight up 8-0. I know that's a deck that a lot of people I feel like are underestimating. What do you think are some others?
Adamancipator, the rise of the Prankids variant, or even just playing pure still is really good. That's just something that people wrote off after Black Dragon was gone, but the deck just does a lot and it's very consistent. Another one, in my opinion, you and I are both fans of this deck, Mekk-Knights. Mekk-Knights is definitely just an advantage machine, like, you know, with the recursion of purple and blue, potentially searching 3 cards. No one's going to play around blue sky, or it's just in the middle of a format where like Mekk-Knights are like not seen unless you're playing Invoked or like trying some off the wall Orcus shit. And, you know, the deck just has like tons of tools, and I could go on about that deck forever. But something I do want to note about Mekk-Knights is I'm testing a build currently with the Zodiac engine. It's just insane. Tanky's a column. You know what I'm saying? Like go to the Hammer Kong, link it off for, you know, just fucking forget about it. Whatever, you know, the Zoos are a good normal summon. So yeah, I think there's a lot you can do with mechs. You could play like Persadia build or whatever. Something else, Infernoble is another one of those that people just wrote off. Infernoble does things. It does a lot of things. You could do the PK build, set up the Appaloosa on summon 6. You could just completely forget about Nib because like people aren't playing Nib right now, and you could just go Herald before Hulk or whatever, or just do it. There's tons of ways you can build the deck, and it still makes big, dumb, ignorant board. You know, VFD Herald is almost as strong as VFD Chuchi. 2 more. Ancient Warriors, actually. This is kind of more of my rogue side coming out, and I actually have a lot of exposure to this deck because my buddy Mike that I mentioned earlier plays this with me, you know, at least once a week. We sit and grind, and he plays Ancient Warriors. The deck can do things, and it has a good grind game, and the pluses are there, is kind of what I mean with Ancient Warriors. The Link monster's insane. You played in a Tri-Brigade deck. And the last one I actually want to bring up is Mermails. Yeah, you're laughing at me. Mermails can hand loop you. Mermails have access to Deep Sea Minstrel, and you know the card pool has some of the like highest count of search cards in the game, and it just gets better with Prosperity. Minstrel allows you to play around tons of slews of hand traps, trigger your Dragoons, go into your Diva, go into your Hulk plays, set up big ignorant board, set up VFD board if you want. So you know, those are kind of the ones that I have been messing around with my buddies, but yeah, that's kind of all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I like the idea of mechs. I think the problem with mechs right now is that they just don't have a great answer for VFD.
Oh yeah, you lose that card.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because mechs really want to go second. They want to break the board, but that's just not an option with VFD.
Yeah, draw droplets or die or have access to secret Morningstar without activating any effects. So yeah, 100%.
Right, and I think a similar deck to Mech Knights is that Machine Link loop deck, the Infinitrack deck.
Oh yeah, the Earth Machine, because it plays that same kind of resource game. The recursion's good. It's just kind of got that power. The OTK potential's there. Yeah, that's a very good comparison, actually.
Yeah, I think because of the control nature of the format, there's room for a lot of decks that are more just the gain advantage until your opponent just dies. Like, they just can't keep up with it anymore. And then take the 1-for-1, 2-for-1 trades with your traps.
100%. The big brain plays for sure.
Absolutely. All right, that one's closed out. Let's go to Chain Link 1. All right, so we've got, what's it called? Heavenly Zephyr Miradora, which is a new hand trap released in Blazing Vortex. I know you have some opinions on this. I've formed some as well. What do you think of this card?
So all I have to say is the activation and effects of this card cannot be negated. I'm pretty sure that line of text, that sentence, has never been on a Yu-Gi-Oh card before. And you know what that really means to me is your opponent can set up all of the negates before 5 summons they want. When they go into their big link play, they go into their Auroradons, their Verdes, whatever, slam that guy. As long as that card's on the field, effects are negated, which also leads into some issues with the card. The stat line's kind of questionable, to be completely honest. I mean, 2026 can run over a lot of stuff, but while it's on board, you can't droplet it. You can't imperm the card. I mean, a lot of people compare it to Phantasme, which is a good comparison because it summons itself. But to me, Phantasme is more of like an advantage machine. It's like a +1. It's trying to like facilitate like whatever your opponent's doing. You're trying to get that +1, you know, and put a body on board, and then like you can negate the targeting and stuff. But this card to me seems almost like more like Effect Veiler 2.0, which I know like imperm can kind of be, but you know, another comparison that I make with the card is, you know, Nib Gam is really strong. Miradora Nib's pretty good too. So, I mean,
yeah, I think one of the interesting things about it that at this point, I think is a drawback to it is the fact that its negate effect has to activate. Whereas if you contrast it with a very similar card right now, being Dogmatica Fleur-de-Lis, that's a card where the negation all happens at once. So it kind of, it lends itself more to the current format because I think a lot of things activate on summon, but there are a lot of things that don't as well. Samoric does not. I'm trying to think of some other things in the meta that don't. Cloud Castle, I don't think Cloud Castle activates on summon, does it?
I'm actually not too sure.
I think
but
it's
on that same note, you're absolutely right. That is a huge drawback because you actually can't negate a Auroradon with it because that guy's on summon. However, you can stop them from getting Coltwing out of their deck, which is usually the big power play with the Auroradon anyway. But yeah, that is definitely a downside to the card. I will give you that. That it is like almost like two separate effects: activate in hand, then activate on board. That is kind of a problem.
Yeah, but now that I'm thinking, oh, and by the way, Cloud Castle does activate on summon. I just looked it up.
Yeah.
VFD, you can stop VFD with this card.
Yes, you can. That is really good, and it can't activate, you know, at all while he's on the board, which is quite good. It's just not the right format for it. You know, we talked about this briefly before we started the show, but it's definitely just not the right format for it. It is a combo counter card potentially. So the keyword being potentially.
But here's my thing: it's a $13 secret.
Yeah, I definitely bought a playset.
Yeah, go pick it up right now. What do you have to lose? Like, if it sees any play, it'll go up to 35. Like, Gearsu is at 35.
Yeah, for sure. Gearsu's dirt, and that card's nuts. Phantasme was on the lower end too on release, wasn't it?
I don't know if that one was ever that low.
Well, maybe not that low, but I meant like more of like 40s and not 80s that it was.
Right. Yeah, after that YCS or during that YCS Atlanta, the team one, that card really spiked up, like before that.
So basically, get your hands on it now before it becomes a situation like that.
Yeah, exactly. All right, that's our time. Let's move on to the outro. Alex, what do you have to plug?
TheWorstDuelist, my channel. Check it out. A lot of off-the-wall deck profiles, some memes there too. Totsim, like I plugged him earlier. Check him out too. Dutch community's great. Joshua Boosters, all those guys for sure. Other than that, shout out to my girlfriend for letting me do this and not giving me too much hell about it. But yeah, I mean, that's about it.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you wanting to do this collaboration. I definitely encourage everybody to go over and check out your channel. I've seen some of your stuff. It's good. And I think, just keep up with the grind, man. I think it's one of those things where you never know what video is going to be the one that takes you up to, to that 10,000 subscriber mark.
Yes, sir. Same to you, John, man. Shout out to all of Tampa. Also, while we're here, shout out to all of you guys. You guys are great. Really miss you guys. COVID sucks. I wish all the same to you for sure, my friend.
I'd look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, I'll probably have you on the channel one day. We'll do something. We'll figure it out. See you, John.
Sounds like a plan. Make sure you like, subscribe, share the video with somebody you think would like a ripoff of an ESPN show, but for Yu-Gi-Oh. This is Tampa Yu-Gi-Oh. I've been John with Alex, signing off.